Okay. Hello, hello, hello. I hope that we're all sort of recovered from. It's a difficult day. It's a difficult day. Tisha B'Av.
It happened to be also a hot day
What?
outside of the hot.
Yeah. Well, okay. We are continuing. Likutey Moharan Tanina. Torah Zayin. We are holding by Seif Yud Aleph 11. Basically, we have concluded the structure of the teaching. Now, there are certain madrigas, certain inyonim that the Rebbe applies, shows that this is the guiding principle behind Chanukah. Then the Rebbe talks about the inyan of lung. There are quite a few teachings in which the Rebbe speaks about lung, about the lung. And this is one of them. And the reason is because you know that Rabbeinu, like almost 3 years before the Rebbe was Mistalik, he had tuberculosis. And in those days, tuberculosis was something which was, in of months. It was, but the Rebbe had many Torahs and many tikkunim that he had to rectify and affect before he passed away. But the Rebbe, with certain amount of Torahs, the Rebbe spoke about the lung and about the health of the lung. And with that, he enacted refuah to his own tuberculosis enough to have enough time in order to be mashpia all the tikkunim, to do all the Torahs, to sell the Torahs, to be mashpia, to do the tikkunim that he had to in this world. And it lasted for about 3 years. At the very end, the last teaching of Rabbeinu in this world was on Rosh Hashanah, Tafkufayin Aleph, 1811, I believe. His Torah Ches is a long and incredibly intricate, complex Torah.
This was not the last one?
No, the last one is Ches. The Tikot Echecho.
No?
Yeah. And the Rebbe said the Torah, he was basically, coughing up blood, vessels with blood. It was Mesiras Nefesh. I mean, people hardly believe that he will survive the effort of saying the last teaching, and what a teaching it is. I mean, it's vast as a sea. That was Mesiras Nefesh. So this is one of the Torahs in which the Rebbe speaks about the lung. But now, before it, it speaks about Chanukah. So again, in a nutshell, we explained the main completion of a person in this world is to establish children, sons, and pupils, and to instill in them a das, a sense of an odom, of a human being. I'm sorry, I'm a bit hoarse. Not a big animal, anyhow. And to insert a real seichel in them, see, a real das in them. And by doing so, by instilling the das into talmidim, into children, new attainments of new asagas, new ideas enter the mind. So new makifim. And then a person understands things that he wasn't able to understand beforehand. And we learned that the sage of the generation is zachat and makifim, which are already beyond the realm of time. Any asaga that a person understands this world, if you cannot explain it, means you don't understand it, right? We understand by defining things. You define something, you're able to understand it. Defining meaning that you're putting a beginning and end, frame around what it is that you understand. From here to here, from here, this is called you define. Okay? If you can define it, you don't understand it. You can understand and know that I'm here. But if you're told that I'm here and I'm in New York City, you don't know where I am. Because it's not defined. Here we're talking about makifin. Now, makifin in and of itself is a notion that you know about, but you don't fully understand. So any kind of a makif has a certain undefined quality about it. But these makifim, once they come into your mental faculties, you're able to define them. Because the reason why these comprehensions are considered to be makifin is not because they are incomprehensible. It's because your own mental faculties are not developed enough, to contain them. So you don't understand them. But once they come in, voila, you got it. Which means that they're not incomprehensible per definition. The incomprehensibility of these makifim by you and by me is because we're still not ready for it. If we will be, then we're able to understand them. But the makifin of the tzaddik, of the chacham ador, are per definition impossible to define. They're impossible to define because even these makifin, as it were to come into this world, there's not enough time in existence. In other words, from the beginning of time to the end of time, there's not enough time to explain, to define these makifin. This is why these makifin are considered beyond time. And these makifin, which are beyond time, they comprise the joy and the rejoicing of Olam Haba. In Olam Haba, when people are no longer restricted and constricted by bodies, the mind.
If it's beyond time, that means it's incomprehensible. If it's within time, you can.
Okay, in this world. But in the next world, when we're no longer bound by physicality, then there are certain faculties which are spiritual that the neshamas get, and then they get new makifin. And when they get these new makifin, this is the main rejoicing, the main joy and pleasure for Olam Haba is the absorbance of these makifin. Now, and the Chacham needs to show those who are in a very high madrega that they haven't even started yet. This is the Soga of Ma, you haven't even begun. Just to show the Talmidim, the ones who are in low places, that the Kodesh Baruch Hu is with them and he's by them. And he has to combine them both. The Talmud has to have the Soga of a Ben, and the Ben has to have a semblance of the cover of a Talmud. That's the Shlemus. Also, we also learned that the Chacham Ador has to discern which Makif to bring in, to understand, and which Makif to keep away. Because if he lets out teachings that it's not its time yet, a Makif that will come in may come in a Makif that is beyond his comprehension. He won't be able to catch it. He won't be able to deal with it. So, and he has to show the Krinas Ben a little bit of the Talmud, Krinas Ben a little bit of the Son, so they have Europe. And we concluded that this combination of Ben and Talmud, this combining of Ben and Talmud, is not just what the Tzaddik Ador, the Chacham Ador, has to be able to perform, but each and every one of us is supposed to be able to perform. In other words, in any given time, we have to be cognizant that Kadosh Baruch Hu is with us and is close to us, and he loves us passionately. He absolutely can't without us. At the same time, to know that we haven't even started yet. We don't know anything about Kadosh Baruch Hu. We're as far from Kadosh Baruch Hu as we ever were. And when a person does that, and when a person does the B'Shleimus properly, then he is able, when he's eating, that in the eating itself, there'll be an illumination of such incredible will and yearning to Kadosh Baruch Hu, that a person wouldn't even know what he wants. You just, because why don't you know what you want? Because what you're looking for is a makif. You're looking for something that cannot be defined. This is the Torah in the nutshell. Now the Rebbe says as follows. This is the principle of Chanukah. In Chanukah, da kikol echad ve'echad, you should know that every single person, each one according to how he is able to achieve during Yom Kippur. What does it mean? As much as you are able to elicit the request from the Kodesh Baruch Hu, he should forgive you. Ken yesh lo Chanukah. This is, to this extent, this is the same kind of Chanukah you have. Because it is through the forgiveness that the person achieves, who is granted on Yom Kippur. This is the kind of Chanukah here. This is what makes Chanukah. Moshe Rabbeinu asked Kadosh Baruch Hu, "Slachno la'avon ha'am hazeh." Forgive to the transgression of this nation. What he was saying it on? He was saying about Chet HaMeraglim, the sin of the spies, right? And what happened? The Chet HaMeraglim, what did he bring about? The Churban Beis Hamikdash. This is the thing that happened. We're just getting up, this evening. We just got up from Tisha B'Av. This is, the courtesy of Chet HaMeraglim. As Chazal said, Hashem Yisrael said, "Ateh bachitem b'chiyah shel chinam," you have cried. The Meraglim came from Yisrael. So listen, guys, forget about it. No way, Jose. Not in a million years. Ain't going to happen. And Am Yisrael went to their tents and they started crying and this and that. Why does Hashem hate us? And this and all kinds of. Hashem hates you. Took you out of Mitzrayim, gave you everything. Hashem hates you. You barely survived the sin of the golden calf. The Meraglim come and say, some, sell you, a bill of sale. Everybody goes, everybody goes, this Baruch Hu hates us. And what was it? It says, Mazel Mishpachoisov. It says, Vayar, I said, Vayifke Am, Vayar Mishpachoisov. That the women were, the people were crying in their families. What's it got to do with the families? The Chumash says, they're crying in Mishpachoisov. Rashi says, you want to know why they were crying? Because when they got the Torah says that certain kind of relatives, you're not allowed to marry anymore. That's the reason for crying. The Mishpachoisov. The real reason for the crying was, what do you mean? What do you mean a person can marry a sister? What's wrong? I mean, what's,
brother,
a brother, brother's wife, whatever it is, or what's wrong? It's like two sisters. Why can't you wear it to sisters? And I forget that my wife has such a beautiful sister. Well, okay. This is how it all came about. So Bechad Meraglim, Kadosh Baruch Hu says, you cried a cry for nothing. I'm going to affix to you, I'm going to make it ready for you. There will be a night of crying for generations. That night was the night of Tisha B'Av. This is the destruction of the Beis Hamikdash. Moshe Rabbeinu asked us, Eslachna. Moshe Rabbeinu asked, please forgive. Ki bezeh achet ve'apgam, in this particular sin and blemish tluim kol avenis. In this particular sin, this particular blemish, all the averes a person does is included in that. That pgam destroyed the Beis Hamikdash. And also, in the time of Beis Hamikdash, so far you already see that the Slachno and Churban Abayis are connected, and it's what to do with the other Averos. Okay, understand. Okay, you see that already what they were crying over, the Averos of immorality. It's already in there. All the Averos are hanging on this. And additionally, the time of Beis Hamikdash used to stand. We were clean of all Averos. In the morning, there was Tonish L'Shacham. That was atoning for all the Averos of the night. He's atoning, Slachna. And then at Tomid Ben Arbaim would atone for all the Averos during the day. And the people did during the day. So we were totally clean all the time. It says on Yerushalayim, the Tzedek Yalim, that the justice and will sleep in Yerushalayim. Rashi says, the offering that you bring, the burnt offering that you bring in the morning, with the tone of all the Averos that were committed during the night, and the burnt offering of the evening will atone for the Averos of the day. Because that's what the Rebbe started in the Torah. He says, Ki Yisrael Am Kodesh. Israel is a holy, holy nation. Lefi Godel Ruchniyosav Dakusam. Vis-a-vis their greatness of their spirituality and their subtlety and the sensitivity and the fragility. And Yecholim Lisa Alem Oven Masashal Oven Afiliyom Echad. They cannot sustain, the burden of sin even for one day. We said in the very beginning of this Torah, the beginning of this teaching, this is how it starts. A real leader is somebody that puts a real das in you. It tells them you cannot sin. Why? Because Am Yisrael are so spiritual and they're so sensitive to any touch of Aveira. And they can carry a burden of Aveira even for a day. So here we visit the same notion once again. Okay, this is why we must have Beis Hamikdash. Shichapelon b'chol yom, should atone for us every single day. We can carry that load. From the time when the Holy Beis Hamikdash was destroyed, we cannot cleanse ourselves from that area. We don't have the burnt offerings anymore. There's nobody to atone for us. Moshe Rabbeinu Olav Shalom that knew all this, who was Moishe Nefesh on Am Yisrael. And he says, Slach no le'avon ha'ayim hazeh v'chulei. Forgive, please, to the sin of this particular nation. He puts in this notion, please, you have to forgive it to them. With the Beis Hamikdash, without Beis Hamikdash, there has to be an element of restart, of forgiveness. Because otherwise this nation cannot exist. He knew that in this sin, the destruction of Beis Hamikdash depended. That includes all the sins. And when Moshe Rabbeinu was Zoicha, Kadosh Baruch Hu acquiesced and accepted the request of Slachno, that affected B'chinas Chanukah Sabayis, the inauguration of the Beis Hamikdash, B'chinas Chanukah. Chanukah is Chanukah. One has its chinuch, it's education, ben and Talmud. On the other hand is Chanukah, it means inauguration. When you inaugurate the Beis Hamikdash, which is Hepech Churban Habayis. Churban Habayis is destruction. Chanukah, inauguration, is the beginning. It's the start. These are two opposites. That's why each a person, to the extent commensurately with the extent that he is able to affect the bakosha of Slachna on Yom Kippur. When is our time? When is the time that we're able to do it? It's Yom Kippur. That's what we have. We no longer have an automatic mechanism, as it were, to press the restart button, to cleanse it from the Averis, except for Yom Kippur. But Yom Kippur itself, you have to do tshuva. The Korbanos also obviously have to do tshuva. But it was a lot easier when the Korbanos were there. They said he's talking Churban Habayis. When HaKadosh Baruch Hu is mechaper the sins of Am Yisrael, this atones for the blemish of the Churban Habayis. So commensurately with Churban Habayis, this is B'chinas Chanukah Habayis. B'chinas Chanukah. So we say the way that you have the Slachna, the way that you are able to affect and receive the pardon. Now, Kadosh Baruch Hu, this is the kind of, in other words, the way that you are able, Kadosh Baruch Hu, forgive you for the destruction. And this is how you're zeichet to the inauguration, to the rebuilding, to Chanukah. Moshe Rabbeinu didn't just say it. Listen, it sounds very nice, but there's another remez in it. It's Moshe Rabbeinu alluded to Tziruf Chanukah. Chanukah has in it the tziruf in the pasuk, Slach no, forgive the sin of this nation. In it there are the letters of the word Chanukah. Slach no le'avon ha'am hazeh. So it says hazeh kigodel chazdecha v'chasher nasaso. These words have the letters of Chanukah in it. Now, when you say that, when you say something in Rosh Hashanah, means the acronym, it's the first letter of every word. When you say it's the Oisias Chanukah, means that within it there are the letters of the word Chanukah, but not according to the right order. This is the Oisias Chanukah is in there. Rosh Hashanah Chanukah. Chanukah naaseh al yedei slachna. Chanukah is created by the forgiveness that you are able to affect by Kodesh Baruch Hu. So, as we said in Ois Gimel, that Am Yisrael is totally distant from Averis. They're the antithesis of what Averis are. And when they fall into Averis Chas v'Shalom, is an impossibly heavy load. They cannot lift it at all. And all these, the Rebbe said, all these surim in the world, all these surim in the world are not considered anything vis-a-vis when they are compared to the load and the yoke of any Avera. And the Mei Rachmanis and Am Yisrael said is to get him out of Averas. That's a true Rachmanis. That's what the Manik is supposed to do. That's why every person has to have children and Talmid and students and instill in them Das Amiti. Stay away from Averas. That's the Mei Rachmanis. Same thing happened in Beis Hamikdash. Beis Hamikdash atoned Averas of Israel every single day because the Jews cannot carry upon themselves the load of even one Avera, even one day. And also in Beis Hamikdash, it says that's where Das came to Am Yisrael. People don't understand what was the two Beit Hamikdashim, the two temples. Now is the time when Beis Hamikdash was burning, both the first Bais Rishon and Bais Sheni. Now, I mean, we can't fast for 2 days, but the main burning was taking place right now. We need to understand that the Rebbe says in Torah Samach Zayin that there are two klipos. Zera says, I think the Tikkunim, I'm not sure. There are two bechinas of Romi Rabasi, the great Rome, and Robi Zeirta, and the small Rome, the miniature Rome. And it's a bechinas Ayin Yamin and Ayin Small. That's the right eye and the left eye. The months of Tammuz and the months of Av. The Sefer Yetzirah says that the month of Tammuz represents the right eye. The month of Av represents the left eye. What eyes are we talking about? These are months. Every 17 months has, a certain part of the body, but what's it got to do with eyes? Because in the time of Beis Hamikdash, there was a tzivui, was a mitzvah. 3 times a year, every male has to see/be seen by the face of the Master Hashem. When we came to Beis Hamikdash, Hashem saw us and we saw him, as it were. What does it mean Hashem saw us and we saw him? We saw that Hashem is seeing us. Ayin be'ayin. The ayin is seichel. It says about Adam v'Chava. It says v'yipokchu inei that their eyes were opened. Rashi said, what is their eyes were opened? Hashem is seichel ne'ema. This is mean the seichel. I see what you're saying. What do you mean I see what you're saying? I was thinking thoughts. Where can you see that? You can see thoughts? No. I understand what you're saying. Okay. So seeing what you're saying means I understand it. I know what you're saying. Bais Rishon was Ayin Yamin, was the dominant eye. That's why the ashpah, the influx of Das in Bais Rishon was so immense that we were able to get to Madrega of Nevuah, of prophecy. Anybody that, and that's Israel, especially in Yerushalayim. Anybody who was in proximity, almost all the Nevi'im, except Yirmiyahu, there was not but all the Nevi'im were in Yerushalayim. Because Beis HaMikdash was in Yerushalayim. And when the Beis HaMikdash was there, everybody was, how can I have that? Beis HaMikdash? Kodesh Baruch Hu has troubled himself and constricted himself into a physical house, which is impossible to understand. How can a Kodesh Baruch Hu constrict himself in the world, let alone a nation, let alone a house? And the Kedusha was so palpable that we were immediately elevated. The Vilna Gaon used to say, he said, I can imagine the greatness of the Rishonim, Rashi, the Rambam, and I can imagine even the greatness of the Amoraim. You know, Rabbi Yochanan, Rav, Abaye, Rabbi, Rav Nachman, Rish Lakish. I can sort of picture in my mind their greatness. Because I'm even able to picture in my mind, like, sort of have some kind of makif, a certain kind of attainment of a saga of even in the Tanoim. Rabbi Akiva, Hillel, Shammai, Rabbi Meir Balanes, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. The Vilna says, but it's totally beyond my ken to be able to imagine the madrega of a simple Jew that lived during the time of Beis Hamikdash.
But if
that's above my pay grade.
If all the simple Jews were on the level of Lubual, would they have foreseen the destruction of the temple and therefore done tshuva and all the sins that led to the destruction?
Okay. No. It's not a circular logic. You're asking very well. But the answer is just as simple. Zelu mazeh elokim. You know, commensurate with the greatness of the levels that we're able to achieve by doing what Kodesh Baruch Hu wants us to do, the temptation to go against it was just as great. That's what Rebbe says in Torah Samech Zayin. It deals specifically. Yeah, absolutely. Because the Rebbe said in Torah Samech Zayin, there is Ma'orah, or this is the illuminators of the light, which is the Kedusha, is the Ma'orah Eish, illuminators of fire. This is the opposite of fire shines and look, what more can you ask for? Yeah. It looks bright, it looks beautiful. It burns everything to the asad, everything to the foundation. And Achinami, once a person was able to battle this incredible spiritual battle and break through the Me'orah Eish, then he was able to get the Madrega of Nevuah. But we know, according to our Madrega, that there is, there are consequences to everything. Nevertheless, we find ourselves a little bit. Don't tell anybody. What? Me? What? What are you talking about? Never, didn't even pass it's the furthest thing from my mind. What are you talking about? Well, don't we know? As much as we know, this is a much challenge that we have. And the same thing, all the bechinas that we said in this particular teaching, everything is combined in Beis Hamikdash, because Beis Hamikdash was a combination of Ben v'Talmid. As Al said, Al Shem Ma Nikra Shmo Har HaMoriah. Why is the Temple Mount called Har HaMoriah? The mount of teaching. Shemimeno Hoira Yaitza L'Yisrael. This is where teaching comes out from Beis Hamikdash. Sanhedrin was sitting, in Lisha Sanhedrin in Beis Hamikdash. Zeh Pchinas Talmud. And also Chazal said, Lama Nikra Shmo Cheder HaMitos. What is Beis Hamikdash called the bed chamber? This is the Beis Hamikdash Arsenu Ranana, because it's through Beis Hamikdash Al Yodoi Parim V'Rabim Yisrael. Because when Beis Hamikdash was built, Am Yisrael started multiplying, became a great nation. This is Pchinas Ben. In order for us to understand a little bit this Indian, it's a good time to speak about this. Now, for us to understand a little bit, what is this inyan of the Choram Mikdash? Yirmiyahu and all the Nevi'im that came to Am Yisrael and told them again and again and again what you said. Are you out of your cotton picking mind? Don't you know what's going to happen? 40 years before the Churban of Eyes, one by one, can't you see that the red, the right of the korbanos of the Seirim of Yom Kippur was red, and then when the kapara become white, it didn't become white anymore. And when the Kohen Gadol would take out the goyrol, the lottery, so usually, when there was kapara, then the Korban Hashem came out in the right hand, and Lazazel came out in the left hand. Didn't you see already that the Hashem started coming in the left hand, and Lazazel came out in the right hand? Didn't you see, that the miracle of the Mesa Mikdash started 40 years before the Churban? Hello, Yehu, where are you? Time the Churban came. There comes the Yirmiyahu, and he's running to the others. And what did he go through? Yirmiyahu. They persecuted him. They threw him in jail. They threw him in a pit full of mud. He hardly kept alive there.
The killing of Zachariah was before Yirmiyahu or after?
It was before.
We read that today.
Yeah, I think it was before. What do I know? But the point is that the people refuse to believe. It ain't going to happen. Hitler's already becoming the leader of Germany. It ain't going to happen. I got my factory over here. And my father's father used to be bad. Listen, I used to be in second-class citizen. Don't worry. Nothing's going to happen. It ain't happening. They're just exaggerating. Only you're the only one who knows. Nobody else knows. You're only Yirmiyahu, you know, everybody else. Nobody else knows. And when it finally happened, people were shocked. People were shocked. They couldn't believe it. They couldn't believe it. We knew you're serious, but we didn't think you were serious. Yeah.
Couldn't believe it?
Yeah, they couldn't believe Hashem did it. Okay, he's talking. All right. Okay.
What?
It's here in front of us. What are you talking about?
No, but it didn't happen. But until
Did you believe Yirmiyahu?
that it's going to, yeah.
That was the first time.
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah.
His prediction was
Yeah, but no, the destruction of the temple, he told him everything's going to happen. No, you're a liar. You're a picaris. You're this. You're that. Because they had Nevi'im from the other side. They explained that nothing's going to happen.
One of the side.
The opposite of Yirmiyahu.
What do you say?
Nevi'ei Sheker. They told him nothing's going to happen. You're going to be fine. Don't worry about it. And suddenly when it happened, people were... So Yirmiyahu went to the Avos, over Mitzvah and Yaakov. He called them, I don't know, Hebron. He called them, and they went and they saw what's going on. And they went to Kodesh Baruch and says, how can you do this to our children? Avraham Avinu said, I was dropped into a pit of fire for your name. Yitzchak said, I was put on the Mizbeach, to be shechted for you. How can you do it to my children? Yaakov Avinu says, look what I went through. And I built up, 12 tribes of Am Yisrael. How can you do this? I mean, how can you do this? They all went to Moshe Rabbeinu. What did you do with our children? We put our children in your hands. Look what happened. Moshe Rabbeinu went to Yeshua. He says, I put Am Yisrael in your hands. How could you do this? When HaKadosh Baruch Hu told them, what is the reason? They all came to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, how can you do this? After everything that we have done for you, how can you do this? So HaKadosh Baruch Hu told them, I constricted my entire being, as it were, into Beis HaMikdash. That was the place of the yichud, of the joining together, Chadar HaMitzvahs, of Am Yisrael and HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's the most intimate, most fragile, the most secret place, meaningful of Am Yisrael and HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And you went ahead and you brought Avodah Zarah in there.
He did Avodah Zarah in the temple,
Vadai,
right?
Menashe brought the vessel into the Beis HaMikdash.
In the first temple?
Vadai,
I think that's what Zechariah was criticizing.
Rebbe said that when Titus came into, when he did what he did in the Holy of Holies.
That was the second temple.
What?
That
They
was the
said, but
second-
the first time they took out the Kruvim, took out the Kruvim from Kodesh HaKodeshim, and the Kruvim were embracing one another. They show him, look at this. The whole Am Yisrael was Chanishpach Kol Hadara, was still all the splendor of Am Yisrael. Because Baruch Hu said, you have betrayed my trust, the most sacred intimacy that I have with you. You sold it to somebody else. You were a prostitute instead. You sacrificed my intimacy with you. So Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, and Moshe Rabbeinu all said, there's nothing we can say. They need to be annihilated, Hashem Yirachem, on the sanctification of your name. There's no pardon for this. There's no pardon for this. And all went away. It says, only one stayed. Only Rachel stayed. Rachel Ishtoras, she remained. She remains before HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The others, the Moshe Rabbeinu, everybody else went away. Okay, what can you do?
This is not here to try.
She just kept on keeping on. What is Rachel? What is Rachel? Rachel is a symbol, we have, when we say Tikkun Chatzos, you have Tikkun Rachel and Tikkun Leah. Tikkun Leah is the emunah with sophistication, with moichin, with the bina. Tikkun Rachel is emunah pshuta. It's a simple emunah without any seichel. Zilch. Rachel said, who is greater? You or flesh and blood? He says, you're lamenting, you cannot forgive that brought, a foreign woman, into your bedchamber. I brought a foreign woman to I did the same thing. And not only that I agreed to it, I helped her. You have to forgive them. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, okay, don't cry, Rachel. We come to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, we have nothing to bring to the table, really. But we have Rachel. Of the emunah pshuta, we believe. We believe. We believe. We have nothing else to bring to the table except we believe. No matter what happened, we believe. We're with you. You can't give up on us. We have not given up on you. You don't give up on us. Because we have the emunah. We cannot give up. You cannot give up on us. No, who said you're right? And that was first Beit HaMikdash, the right eye. Second Beit HaMikdash, no more prophecy. It still was Ruach HaKodesh. Then we lost that too. And since that, we're just blind. Just walking blind, just emunah.
There's still Nevuah in the world.
Yeah, but there's nobody has the faculties to be able to get it. The Nevuah is still here. You can affect the Ruach Nevuah, but nobody's Mesugel to be a Navi. The Inif Nevuah is still around. Anyhow, listen, I'm not gonna hold you on any longer. It is late. It's after a fast day. Kodesh Baruch Hu Hashem, Zaki Yasvet Hashem to be Binya Beis Hamikdash soon, very soon in our days. I see Bias Mashiach Tzikim V'Zat Hashem. Kol Tov and Atzlach B'Kol Inyonim V'Zat Hashem. Okay.